The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
This is Roger Bradshaw. I'm continuing now with part 4 of the Race Director 2014 demonstration. And this section will cover fine-tuning some of the results that are a result of the chip times that we've imported. And I'll demonstrate a few other Race Director 2014 features as well. So we've finished importing all of the results, and now let's go back into reports and let's determine who our top military finishers are. So we'll go to the overall finish list, and we're going to run this report, and we're going to split the report by gender so that we get all of the females separated from the males on the report. And we're going to use the select data button to make sure that the only people reported are those that are in the military or that specified that when they registered. So on the select data button, we're going to refer to that optional data field that we set up called military, and we're going to look for values between Y and Y. So we should only select those that have a Y in that military field. As soon as we hit OK, it knows that this is going to be a specialized report, so the assumption is it's going to want some kind of a special title. So we'll call this Military Finishers. Okay, that being done, we're all set to run the report. And we'll run it to the print preview. And then we'll make a note that the top 3 female military finishers are bid numbers 1, 196, and 177. And the top 3 male finishers are 61, 11, and 183. We're going to return now to the top finishers section for the 5K run. We're going to select the military band, and we're going to use the assign button to assign the bib numbers we just made note of. So that's bib number 1, 196, 177, 61, 11, and 183. That being done, we'll save this. We'll close the division setup screen. And we'll return to our reports and go to the age group report for the 5K. And this time when we run the report, we're going to see that we have 3 top finisher categories. We have the open, masters, and military, first for the females. And we see that we have the 3 bib numbers that we selected now included. And these folks will also be pulled out of the age grouping reports because we had the setting that we didn't want them repeated in the age group reports. And if we skip ahead to the males, we'll see the same thing: open, masters, and military. Okay, I'd like to return back to the timing point discussion just for a moment. And I want to select a race that is rather common, or a setup that's rather common for timing points in a triathlon. In this case, we're going to look at how the setup was done. So it's a 5-segment race. It's a triathlon with transitions, and there are 3 timing points. This is a very common setup. There's a separate reader at the finish line, and there are 2 readers in the transition area. This happens to be a run, bike, run, and so the first one of the readers in the transition area is going to record the run in and the bike in, and there's 2 occurrences, and there's a 10-minute gap factor, and the other reader is going to record the bike out, run out. Again, 2 occurrences with a 10-minute gap factor. When we go to the segment setup, we see how it's configured. So for the run number 1, to record that, we're going to use occurrence 1 from the run-in, bike-in timing point. For T1, that's going to be occurrence 1 of the bike-out, run-out timing point. For the bike, it's going to be occurrence 2 of the run-in, bike-in. And for the T2 time, it's going to be occurrence 2 of the bike-out, run-out. And of course, for the run 2, it's going to be the finish line, occurrence number 1. Certainly a lot more involved in the setup with this method, but I'm going to open a different race, which is this same race, but with results entered. You'll see that results entry now is much more straightforward, and it's the activity you're doing on race day that we want to be as efficient as is possible. So now, in previous versions of Race Director, you had to struggle through and select which segment you were. So you would always have 5 choices, and with each choice, it might be an occurrence 1 or an occurrence 2. You know, it fairly complicated. All of the complication was in the process where you were importing the results. We've moved that complication certainly to the setup, but it's only a one-time process. And now, when you're actually processing the results, it's much simpler. Your only choices are the start and the timing points that you have set up. And again, you'll see that you know, we have occurrences here. There's 556 occurrences for this timing point. If you look at it by occurrence, there's an even number, 278 for both. And for the bike out, run out, 552, slightly more for occurrence 1 than occurrence 2. So there's an example of how timing points are used in a triathlon. Very common setup. Okay, I'm going to return back to the race that we were processing, park to park. I'm going to clear all the results. And we're going to move on to another topic. And this topic, and this will be the conclusion of this demonstration. This topic is dynamic bib assignments. More and more races are doing this. And essentially what you're doing is you are postponing the actual assignment of the bib numbers until the last possible moment. And you actually do all the registration into a different bib number range. And the idea is at the race site you can have multiple computers assigning the bib numbers. So I'm going to go through a brief demonstration of how that works. So on this computer we have the 3601 participants. I'm going to reassign the bib numbers for all of them and I'm going to put them way up in this range in the 90,000. So we're going to start with bib number 90,001, and we're going to reassign everyone alphabetically. Now, it's only possible to do this bib number reassignment when there aren't any results entered. So that's why I erased all the results. So we'll reassign them now. And it shows you a little report of what it looks like before and after. Do the bib transfer, are you sure? Yes. Okay, so now we have all of these participants starting with 90,001, and they're in the system in alphabetical order. Okay, so we're going to assume this is the scoring computer now, and I'm going to take a backup of this race. All right, so I've successfully backed up this race with only bib numbers up in the 90,000 range. All right, so now what we would do is we would restore that backup onto as many registration computers as is needed. And at the race site, now let's assume that we are on one of the kiosk computers where we're actually handing out the bib numbers. So there's a new kiosk screen called Bib Transfer Kiosk. Would you like to include an optional data field? Yes, we'll include optional data field 1, and that's only referring to what we see in the list. If you are using dynamic bib assignment and there is a pre-assigned bib range entered here, well, yes, there is. It's from 90,001 through 99999. Okay. Now you'll see that we have the list all in alphabetical order, and now people are coming up to you. So maybe someone by the name of Erickson comes up, and you find them. It's actually Sandy Erickson, and so you select them, and at your station you have bib numbers beginning with bib number 1. So you assign them bib number 1, you enter it. What some timers do is they actually have the bib numbers barcode scanned, so they do a barcode scan here. Getting this prompt, we say yes, but we don't want these prompts in the future, so we're going to turn that off. All right, and now someone with the last name of Smith comes up and they want their bib. So it's actually Bradley Smith. You find them, give them bib number 2, enter it, and they go away with their bib number. So this might be happening at 3 or 4 stations, and so let's assume that we are done at this station with all the bib number reassignments. So we'll close this. Now what we do at each station is we go to update participants and we use the export button. But we only want to export those bib numbers that we assign. So we'll keep that range between 1 and maybe 1,000. And we'll save it to this file called transfer. And we only made 2 assignments, so 2 people were exported. Okay? So this computer, so on this computer we're going to, so now what I want to do is I want to restore the backup that we just made a minute ago. And so now we are on in update participants. We can we're back at the scoring computer, which only has bib numbers up in this 90,000 range. Okay, when we're on this computer, we can do an import of the file that came from one of the transfer kiosks. So that's going to be a race director export file. And you notice there's a setting here called dynamic bib elimination. When this is set, it is only going to delete participants on this computer up in the upper range as it's importing them into the lower range, so that we don't have any duplication on the scoring computer. We locate the file and do the import. And now we have bib numbers 1 and 2 down in this range, and then it jumps back up into the upper range. So that's a demonstration about how that works, and that's becoming a more and more common way of giving out bib numbers. And that concludes the part 4 of this demonstration.